Welcome to my journey through the Bible. This will be applications you can apply to your life and a little more in depth about the chapter. We are in First Chronicles chapter 1, verses 1 through 54. Now, when Judah was taken captive to Babylon, both Judah and Israel had hoped that they would be able to return back to their land one day. And it was very important for them to keep their heritage alive. They needed to prove that they were connected through their fathers and through ancestries, that they were connected to Abraham. Abraham was going to have God's blessings, and they would need to prove that they were in his line in order to have those same blessings and privileges when they came back to their homeland. Now, we can find about the blessings of Abraham in Genesis 12 through 17. And this was not the whole list of the genealogy. It was just enough to prove who their fathers were. Now, the Old Testament talks about Jesus and being the Messiah and coming from Abraham and from David's bloodline. Now we can find this when we start tracing it back through the genealogy, especially when we start in Genesis 1 through 5. We read about Adam. Noah and the flood is in Genesis 6 through 9. And at one time, all of the people had spoke one language, and they began to build a tower called Babel. But God had caused them to speak different languages. And without the communication, the people could no longer continue to work together. And this was to show that they were nothing without God. Now, pride is a great achievement, but we must not let it lead us away from God and his worth. Now, there's more about the Tower of Babel that can be found in Genesis 11. We read about Abraham in Genesis 11 through 25. Ishmael, which was one of his sons, his profile is in Genesis 16 through 21. And he was the son of Abraham. And he would be blessed because of his father. Now, Isaac was his second son. And then Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau. And each of their profiles can be found in Genesis 21 through 36 and Genesis 46 through 49. And just as Ishmael and Isaac had fought, when Isaac had Esau and Jacob, they began to fight, and as their children became nations, they still continued to fight against one another. Now, we can find it very interesting to dig into our genealogy and find out who our relatives are and hear the stories about them. And this genealogy was no different. This was a way to keep their heritage alive. Now, if you was to grab a piece of paper and started writing down these names from the very beginning to the end, you would see that Jesus came from Abraham and from the bloodline of David. Now, we read of Jesus in the Old Testament where it alludes to the Messiah that they are waiting for so long. But we have to wait until the New Testament to actually read about Jesus and who he was. And we're working our way to that point. This was just a little bit of a recap of what we have covered up to this point. May God be with you in everything and every way.